just tells them that I'm coming in. At that moment, I take a breath, and in my head, you could say it out loud though if you'd like, I ask for my Reiki master to come down and guide me, and their Reiki master and spirit to come and help them. And I ask for the highest level of energy to come through me to the client that the client is ready for and that needs for whatever purpose that they're there for their healing. I take a deep breath and I breathe out. When I start the Reiki energy, I rub my hands together and I imagine the energy coming through the palms of my hands. If you know the aromatherapy at this time too, and you have your certificate in that, or if being a student that you're going for your case studies, you could put a little bit of oil on your hand with a little bit of whatever aromatherapy that you would like to use, and at that moment then you can hold your hands above them. You would never touch their face though with the aromatherapies on your hands so that it wouldn't go into their eyes or anything. And they could then enjoy also the aromatherapy at the same time. When you do your placement of your hands, wherever you're about to start, if you're following the book, you know, step by step, or if all of a sudden you decide that you'd like to start doing it at the flow that you'd like, either way, you're taking a breath and you're imagining the energy coming down through your crown chakra, touching your heart, and out through the palms of your hand, both hands, and going to the client. And I'm waiting for my body to change, or for a thought, or sound in my head, or a picture in my, like a dream, that is telling me when to go to the next location. Each step of this, what you're doing is really their main 7 chakras and all their minors. So really you're doing the 21, so you're doing their shoulders and their elbows and their joints also. So you're doing all the main chakras and all the joints of the body, all the minor chakras. So whatever placement that you're going to do, again, if you can follow the book, the head is doing all the chakras at the same time. So each step, you're still doing crown and you're still doing brow, even though you're putting your hand positions in quite a few spaces of doing the chakras on the body. And if one spot, you might spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Some spots you might spend just seconds. And I'm not really thinking anything. As soon as I do start to think something, I just take a breath and ask for the energy to come down, whatever the client needs. Sometimes I repeat a spot. Sometimes my body wants to do more than one spot at the same time. Some of these moves aren't quite exactly like what you're going to see in the book, but it's okay. You're doing the chakras. If you know your chakras, you can't go wrong. If you're going to lift their head to do behind, you just turn them lightly to the side, place a hand under, bring the other one. Sometimes you might feel little prickles or tingles in your own body. Breathe through it. Sometimes what that means is there's energy on the person that needs to be replaced and moved. So sometimes I actually need to feel like I'm taking the energy and putting it into like a cosmic garbage can. And that's okay too. And again, you might go over the same spots more than once. You have to start trusting your intuition and going with it whatever way that you feel that is needed. There are times that I've spent half an hour on just the head. A lot of times I'll pull up a chair and I'll sit down and I'll just do the head. Or I might be at their feet, or I might be at their stomach. So don't feel that you have to be standing the whole time. If you think you're going to be there a really long time, just pull up a chair. Moving into throat chakra, just finish crown and brow. High heart. Again, sometimes some of these placements aren't quite in the book, but do trust your instincts. Arms and that lots too, they have no problem with me touching, so a lot of times I'll undo their arms out of the blanket, hold on to their shoulder and also onto their wrist, and hold the energy. You'll see me lots of times move the energy right off their body. Moving up to elbow, so that one hand here is right on the elbow, other one is still on the shoulder. Breathe, make sure you're breathing. If you ever find that you think that the energy is stuck in your client and it just isn't moving, what you can do is ask them to wiggle their toes. And you'll find a lot of times that will help and the energy will just start flowing. Now with the hand, once I'm done the elbow, a lot of times I'll come hold right at their chakra, right in the palm of their hand there. And I actually press it with my finger and I'll hold again. And then I'll just give a little bit of a shake and a sweep and move it down their hand. Now you would repeat this on the other side and do the same thing. So you can do shoulder to elbow or you can do shoulder to wrist. Again, don't get too caught up in exact movements that you have to do. Just know that you're doing the minor chakras and every single joint is a minor chakra. Every single point on a meridian is a chakra. They call them Tsubu. But you have 7 major chakras, 21 minors, and 361 all in total. When I do breast area, I actually put my hands, kind of like the little fingers just underneath, and I hover. If by chance I think that the energy has to be a little bit closer, I'll ask the client, can you please put your hands just onto your breast area? Can you just cover yourself? And then once their hands are there, I'll place my hands on top. females, males, I don't care. It isn't something I'm comfortable with to touch, of course, private areas. So if you find you can hover, and you can hover high, doesn't matter how high you're hovering, the energy will still come down. But if you feel like you need to touch them, then I just ask for their hands to be there. Okay, so you can relax again. Okay, so once I'm done to breast, now I'm going to do solar plexus. And lots of times I take a deep breath and I just breathe. And again, whatever amount of time that you think that you're going to be, you can touch the person. That area isn't necessarily ticklish for a person, but if you're not comfortable, that's okay too. You can breathe. Sometimes I've done little circles and then allow the energy to go again into a cosmic garbage can. Or I imagine sometimes when I'm there that a little tiny vacuum cleaner, I guess if you want to call it that, is attached and it just sucks it. And then you can just hold your hands as if it's sucking it. So some people just have to think it, some people have to see it, some people have to feel it, some people have to just speak it. So it's whatever way that works for you. Spleen, belly button area. Root, it's about the hips. A lot of times you'll see me move the energy. My one hand goes on the outside of their hip. You can either do knee or ankle. I like to do the full leg first. Breathe, bringing down the Reiki energy. Having it going into the client. Again, we can't force it into the client. It's whatever the client needs. If the client doesn't want it, there's nothing we can do about it. And again, if you find any blocks, you just imagine that being done. There's nothing saying that you can't go underneath the knee and on top of it at the same time, or any other part of the body. And to me, it's a feeling like my hand sometimes kind of hurts when it feels blocked, or it just feels like it's not moving energy. And then I have to adjust it until it does. And sometimes what I just felt on his body is that underneath started to twitch for me, which means that I can start to feel it moving. Now the top is starting to twitch for me. Those sensations are helping me to know that the energy is moving. Client might feel it, client might not feel it, and that's okay too. Now, in a real situation, I would do this knee a lot longer, but because we're doing it for the video, I'm moving on. Moving down to the ankle. Again, you can do it on the ankle. Doesn't matter if they're closed or not closed. I don't know if I've ever done a Reiki person without clothes on. Energy doesn't care, it can go through clothing. Has a little bit of a harder time with metal, but it's no problem going through synthetics of clothing. If you wanted to do this side too, and you didn't want to change sides, I can do it from this side also, or I can go around the table and do the other side. Again, moving down. My My movements are a lot faster because it's just for the video than it would be for a real session. A Reiki session lasts about an hour. Sometimes it's quicker, but it really depends what you're doing. If you were going to follow the manual and do all those spots, if you take how many there are and divide it by the amount of time that you have, you'll know how many minutes to leave onto each section. What I find though with my clients is that they're not textbook, and there's always some area that needs more attention than others. So I kind of like to use my intuition and make sure that the client is receiving the session that they need. I'm doing both feet at the same time. Because I've taken my hands off for quite a bit of time, rub them together, asking the energy to come back again. Hands on the back of the head. Sometimes when I'm touching a person, a lot of energy, it feels like really major pulsating energy. Again, with it, I just imagine the energy going in, and if you like, you can imagine the energy going all the way through them and out through their feet into a cosmic garbage can, or you can imagine possibly that one hand is holding the energy going in, the other hand is holding like a vacuum cleaner going out. Try a few different things and see which way the energy flows. Sometimes, again, too, moving the energy around like in little circles can, or puffing it out. Might look a little silly, but just try it and see what happens. Top of the crown. Neck, so throat. Now when you go to do the back of the body, you're doing about the same. Pretend the breast area is here, and now you're doing heart chakra. Moving down into solar plexus. Spleen. Root. A lot of times, again, I'll hover in these areas. One hand on hip, other on ankle. Knee and hip. If you find one area has more of an issue, go to that area. Other side. Again, you could change sides and go to the other side of the table. There's no problem with that. Ankles. Bottom of the feet. Shoulder sure you're comfortable, and then you can readjust. Shoulder and elbow. Palm of the hand. Nothing saying that you can't hold your hand on both sides of their hand. Again, doing areas that just come to mind instead of following just the book, whatever works for you. If all of a sudden some areas feel more blocked than others, just move it. I don't usually do the other side of the arm from this way because my hand would touch their back. I would go around the table, do the opposite arm, same thing that I did on the other side. Because of the video, and I'll block it, I'm not going to do the very end. I do a sweep, so it's right from the top of the head, coming over the body, all the way off to their toes. And I usually do about 3 of them. You can hover, or you can touch the person, whatever's needed. A lot of times too, I'll finish with doing the crown, and you can do the spleen, or you could hover at the root, and then moving into brow, still the back of the body, but the brow goes all the way through the head, moving up to solar plexus, throat, heart. You can do any chakra that you want to in any order that you need to. Crown and base, or root chakra, whatever you like to call it. And again, sweeping. After I'm totally done the session, a lot of times I'll move my hands and flick my fingers as if I'm putting them into a cosmic garbage can. And then I thank my Reiki master and their Reiki master, and I end the session. When you're doing emotional mental work and you're using Reiki energy and you want to use the Seiki symbol to bring in just the mental and the emotional, I like to hold one hand underneath the client's neck sometimes and onto the brow, or I like to use one hand on top of the brow, one hand on top of the crown chakra. And what I do is I place my hands onto them and then I back off. So the pressure is way less than what I started with. You want to hover. You do not want to ever put a lot of weight onto your client. You just need it to be there, but hovering. If your hands get sore, you can readjust your hands, readjust the chair, whatever works for you. I've a lot of times worked with the throat chakra in here too. We've done some sessions where I've done only a couple positions. I've also had them where the client is sitting, and so where I'm holding the back of the neck and onto the forehead, so they're sitting and I'm holding like this, and we've done an hour session with just that. Some of the most amazing things have happened. I've had clients where their bodies will start to move, where they'll start to cry, where they start to laugh. People process in the most interesting ways. And you just allow it to happen. You just breathe and allow it to happen. If you find it's a little bit out of control, then you can ask them just to wiggle their toes and breathe through. There are times too where I've had sessions and I'll get different little pictures or thoughts that pop into the head real quick. I had one where I was working on a lady's stomach and it felt really black and a little different, and I was trying to get the energy to move, asked her to move her toes, and then I said to her, I'm not quite sure, but there's something, there's something with the stomach area, I just can't seem to move this energy. I looked up at her and she was crying, and I asked her, are you okay? And she said, yeah. She says, I just had an abortion. So you never know what you might be working on or why you're working on it, but you just trust, and I'll allow the energy to keep moving. If a person does start to cry or tears start to come out, I don't offer a Kleenex right away. I do say to them, if you need a Kleenex, please ask me. You'll find a lot of times the client won't ask you for a long time, because if you tell them and you give them a Kleenex and you say, here you go, they'll shut up and they'll stop their processing. You can use stones, you can use all kinds of crystals. Works wonderfully, of course, with the Reiki energy. If you've taken the intuitive class, we do that. We also do pendulums to help the chakra energy move too. I've seen sessions that are done with different colored lights that are all the colors of the chakra, and they use sometimes real light bulbs that are different colors, or I myself also have a little tiny flashlight that has a quartz crystal on the end, and I have little inserts that I can insert into that have all the colors of the chakra, and I can use that towards them. There are lots of beautiful crystal points, all different kinds of stones that can also be used with one has a sharp end, one has a soft end. Soft end brings the energy out of the client, the pointed end brings the energy towards the client. Again, with Reiki energy, you're just helping the chakras. You're moving any negative energy out of the chakras and helping to have wonderful energy come in again to whatever the client is needing. If by chance you start to hurt, you're probably giving your energy away, or you're picking up on the client's energy. So again, take a deep breath, go back to your Reiki Master and Spirit, bring down the energy through your heart and out your hands. Because Spirit has all the energy that you need. I personally only have so much. I can't give away all mine, but I can sure bring down energy for other people. Again, when you're all done, thanking Reiki Masters and their Spirit, Reiki Master and Spirit, for the helping of the session.